What's a waste of money purchase that you absolutely stand by? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1, I purchased a colossal fat squirrel statue and put it in my mother's garden without telling her. Wanted to see how long till she found it. It took a few months. Totally worth the laugh. Half the family was in on it. Story 2, when my children were young and we had little money, I would browse catalogs and cut out the pictures of things I loved, hoping that someday they would be in our budget. Years 20 plus have passed and we are more financially comfortable. Most of the items in my pictures are either unavailable or my tastes have changed, but I was still in love with a particular bracelet. I put it in an eBay search a few years ago, and I finally got a hit last year. I will never be sorry I bought it. Story 3, bought a bathtub plug shaped like the back half of a goldfish, even though it was like 20 versus 2 for a regular plug. But a decade later, it still makes me smile, so it was obviously completely worth it. Answer, totally resonate with these stupid things. I spent $25 on a tiny cat figurine that's holding up some towels. Put it in the bathroom next to my sink so that it looks like it's offering me a towel, and it looks so dumb and I love it. Edit. To anyone wanting to find these figurines, search for PHJH cat figurines on Amazon. I can't find the towel one that I have, but there are plenty of other designs. Story 4, getting someone in to do jobs around the house. Sometimes it is not worth the time and effort to DIY. If you don't have the time or the right tools, getting a professional in is worth it. It's less stress and the job gets done properly. Story 5, I printed the I am a banana frame from the rejected cartoon on a 638 canvas and hung it in our guest bathroom off the office. My wife rarely goes in there, and my goal is for it to become part of the house and escape her notice forever. It's been almost 6 months. Story 6. I bought a restaurant-style hot dog roller a few years ago. Best thing I bought. At parties, I just toss doggies on and forget it. Only check on them every so often to turn them down or add more. Story 7. I bought a motorcycle that was listed for $1,500. I was going to offer $1,200. When I started to get to the part where I say how it's not worth $1,500, he says, "How about $1,000?" And then I countered with, "I was thinking more like $1,200. I stand by my mental illness. Thing burned more oil than gas. Story 8. I bought a refurbished tube radio from the 1920s, Atwater Kent brand. I didn't need it, but I wanted it. I have it in my office, which just sort of has a dark academia vibe, and I've connected it to my phone. Is the sound quality good? Not really. Would I listen to music post 1,960 on it? No, because it sounds like shit. Does it get hot and probably use too much power? Yes. Was it at all necessary considering a million better radios exist? No. Could I have bought a radio for $5 instead of $100 Ono that worked 10 times better? Yes. Do I still love this damn outdated radio? 100% yes. Do I only listen to oldies on it? Yep, and I enjoy it. They're the only thing that sounds right on it. Does it bring me joy just looking at it and its giant-ass speaker? Absolutely, every time I walk by. When I first got it, did I play FDR's Pearl Harbor speech and pretend it was 1,941? You bet I did and more. Story 9. Gestures wildly at the craft supplies that are drowning me and ruining my ability to have a cute minimalist house. I do it all again and more, though. I can make or repair anything. Don't ask me how many types of glue I have. I have 2 separate toolboxes for actual house, DIY, and craft. I have 2 100-gal tubs just for yarn. In about 10 hours, I will be terrorizing the local John Lewis. Need a needle felting tool. Help? Story 10. Ice maker. I had ice cube trays, and they worked perfectly fine. But I'm also the type of person to fill a cup absolutely full of ice, and after a couple drinks, I'd use to be all out of ice cubes. Plus now my ice doesn't taste like the rest of my freezer. Story 11. A fancy pants 20-course dinner at a Michelin star restaurant on the first night of vacation in Iceland. It was absolutely wonderful. Food, drinks, engagement with the staff. We left feeling satisfied. None of that "now I need a hamburger" joking. It was a "you only live once" kind of adding to a potentially once-in-a-lifetime kind of vacation. It was a chunk of the vacation budget, but at the end of it all was just lumped into the vacation experience expense. Story 12. Quality tools. I have far too much in Snap-on and similar premium brands, but it's worth it. The guys that say you should have just bought Harbor Freight are the first ones to borrow tools without asking, because they won't round off the stuck bolt, or They don't hurt my hands when I'm really reefing on it. If I can keep them from walking off, they will last me a lifetime. Story 13. I'm not saying to give in to the pressures of the wedding industry complex, but the expense of a wedding was something I was told I'd wish I'd spent on something else. And instead, I'm so glad we did it. Story 14. My PC. I paid a butt ton of money on doing a custom hardline tubing, water-cooled build, and I bought all of it during the peak of the COVID chip shortage, which made everything like twice as expensive as it should have been. It was practically speaking absolutely not worth the money. But when I look at it, well, she's just beautiful. It may not have been worth the money, but it makes me happy, and I got to play all the video games during COVID. Edit. Actually, that last bit is misleading. It was towards the end of COVID lockdowns, and actually the market for components bounced back to MSRP like month after I bought everything. C'est la vie. Story 15. Every few months, I treat myself to the most outrageously overpriced McDonald's imaginable, delivered straight to my door. What should be a humble 12 drive-through meal suddenly becomes a 50 extravaganza once you factor in delivery fees, service charges, and a fat tip to make sure it gets here piping hot. Do I feel guilty? Not even a little. I'm not paying for McDonald's. I'm paying for the luxury of eating nuggets in my pajamas without talking to a single human being, worth every greasy cent. Story 16. A 1,200 guitar instead of 600 in guitar. A 3,000 computer I built recently. IDK man, I can't put a price tag on that stupid fucking smile on my face when I'm playing Paranoid by Black Sabbath for the 700th time on a sick guitar, or playing some video game with a balls ton of mods at too high FPS. Story 17. A new car. I don't care that I have a monthly payment. My paid-off clunker was costing me so much money, it actually reduced me to tears. It was worth every penny to finance my peace of mind. Getting something that's cheap so you don't have a monthly payment ends up costing you in other ways. Story 18. Do you have a hobby that you plan on sticking with for many years? Buy the highest-end tools for it you can afford. Learning on good tools means you'll always know when it's your skill that's holding you back. Answer. Starting with cheap tools has its advantages. If you damage them due to inexperience, they're replaceable. If you buy a set of cheap chisels that needs constant sharpening, you'll get your sharpening game perfected a lot quicker through practice. And sometimes when you're starting out, it can be hard to determine which tools you'll use every day and which ones will sit in a drawer to be used once a year. Often you can't know this at the beginning if you haven't yet decided which direction within the hobby you want to go. Like, I'm so glad I bought a 50 electric hand planer instead of a 251 because I never use that damn thing. Story 19. Remodeling the house I grew up in after my mom passed away. My plan is to make it a rental property. Some of the things I've done are a complete waste of money as it's not going to increase the rent. Stuff like making the master bathroom bigger and replacing the chain link fence with a block wall. I did it because I think my mom would have liked it. Story 20. If you live within a 4-hour drive of an amusement park that offers an annual pass, if that park is fun, buy it once. Go twice a month. Is the pass expensive? Probably. Will you have fun? Almost certainly. Story 21. For me, my greatest form of entertainment is when I can find a video game that absolutely captures me for 40 plus hours or so. That's money well spent for a $70 game or so. But in order to find that game, sometimes I need to buy 2 or 3 games I might like and try them out because I can't force myself to like them. I end up not finishing a lot of them, hence the waste of money, but it's all worth it when I find that game that totally grips me again. Story 22. Expensive gym. Has outdoor pool with a bar and water slides, indoor pool, childcare, indoor bar. Also, did I mention a bar, hot tub, sauna, pickleball, basketball, squash. Pretty sure it has workout equipment, but never tried. It's bananas expensive, but it is the most pampered IV ever been. Edit. $450 for 3 people. It's not expensive for everyone, I guess, but for me it is. Had to cut out some other luxuries to account for this. Rational on my end is it costs the same amount for extended care at school, so I skip that and we go swimming instead. I miss the money every month, but I don't regret it for a second seeing my kids so happy. Story 23. My stuffed animals. They make me happy and they don't hurt anyone. My nieces get a kick out of them too. They also make a good arm prop if I get an ulcer again in my stomach and don't want my arm to put pressure there. Story 24. I buy a lotto ticket every week. It's only $2 and it's fun to think about what I'd do if I won. A movie ticket costs more in this way. I can use my imagination to create my own movie in my head. Maybe this week I'm thinking about a trip on the Orient Express. Next week I'm thinking all of the delicious cakes I'll buy. Maybe I'm watching a movie and thinking about how I'll find a seamstress to recreate all of the costumes for me. It's fun. Story 25. A 1/500 Seiko watch when I could have found it online for about 1K if I was willing to search and wait, but I wanted that particular variant. I wanted it now, and I wanted to support the business I bought it from. Story 26. I'm pretty sure that for the last 12 years, I've been paying $7.99 a month for a Microsoft Word subscription I haven't opened since 2013. I'm an old person, and it just feels like something I'm supposed to have. Story 27. I once bought a second hamper for the dirty clothes that I actually wash and wear more often. Had my main hamper and my secondary hamper. My girlfriend thought it was silly, but college kid me thought it was brilliant. Adult me still does as well. Story 28. Literally every single dumb, breakable piece of shit, toy, or stuffies I've bought my daughter at museum gift shops or gas stations or the dollar section at Target. They break in 4 days or get dropped and covered in dog hair or are lost between cushions. I don't care. They make her happy and keep her occupied and entertained, and it's a way of showing that she's loved and that she matters. She's probably spoiled. I don't care. Story 29. If you have worked hard, it's okay to spend some of your saved money on something stupid. I don't like most luxury brands, but there is a specific pair of LV purple shoes I want to save and get one day. They just look cool as shit and will take my Barney costume to the next level. Just the idea of me getting them pisses off some people close to me. Story 30. Portable air conditioner. I live in Finland, where most apartments do not have AC. Wife was super against it, but was convinced in a single day when the inside temperature in the apartment was 21 degrees instead of 30 degrees. Story 31. After finishing school, I bought a Dyson vacuum cleaner for over 400 dirham with my first paycheck from a shitty paying full-time job. People told me that Dyson is overpriced and to rather get a cheap or used vacuum cleaner, and that off-brand cordless ones are equally good nowadays. But fuck no, it was my first in real adult money, and I wanted that Dyson one. Also, I have a long-haired cat, and her fluff is everywhere. I bought the pet version. It has served me extremely well since, and is the best purchase I ever made in my opinion. Vacuum cleaning is the only chore I truly love. Story 32. I have a prepaid drink subscription. If I am feeling out of sorts, the office is nuts, I need to get out of the house, whatever, I just pull in and get a coffee or a tea, worry-free. It is so much more rewarding than I thought it would be, and I've had it for years now. Story 33. YouTube Premium. I hate not being in control of 100% of the content I consume. I don't want to watch anything I didn't click on. I don't want to hear anything I didn't play, and I don't want to be informed about something I don't care about. Story 34. Yearly zoo membership pass. I paid my first 2 years. Now my mom gets it for my birthday each year. Best $50, closer to $60 now, ever. I pack a lunch and make a day trip every other week, spring through fall, and it is only about 45 minutes away, an hour if I want to avoid the freeway and take a pretty scenic route, only 30 minutes if I go after work at my new job. Story 35. Moleskine notebooks and journals. Makes me feel like I'm in a mist game when I write on them, and I've got quite a little collection at this point. Overpriced paper? Probably. Still love them though. Story 36. Insulated mugs. Ever since we became parents, it was hard to have tea without any interruption. Had to reheat it multiple times. Got an insulated mug for both of us. Hot tea for more than one. 5 HRs. SP great in winter's DoorDash. I have a written record of what I ordered, a paper trail, and if my order is wrong, I can appeal it and get my money back. The amount of times I ordered Chinese or Italian food before DoorDash, dealing with a frustrated person on the other end who couldn't understand me, and vice versa, only to pick it up and find something is wrong and not get what I ordered or my money back. It's worth the extra cost. Story 37. Paying for car washes. I know I can wash it cheaper myself and the thing will just get dirty again, but I feel better driving a clean car and would rather have somebody else do it for me. Answer. There was a car wash in my city that was wonderful. Just drive up, tell which deal you wanted, get out of the car, and watch them vacuum the car. Then send it through the car wash, and then when it came out, there was someone who cleaned the windows and dashboard. The car wash was sold to a chain. Now you run the car through the car wash and you have to vacuum it yourself. They are not doing nearly as much business as they had with the previous owners. I miss the old car wash. Story 38. Weezer tickets near the front row at the back of general admission for the Voyage to the Blue Planet tour. They're one of my favorite bands. I love seeing them at Minute Maid Park, but I had nosebleeds and that kind of sucked. This tour, as close as reasonably possible, and even then I deleted the memory of how much I paid. But it was worth it. Story 39. I pay a subscription for a food delivery service and the premium service for DoorDash. I think it's called Dash Pass. I'm single and live alone, and I find grocery shopping and cooking to be massive wastes of time and money. Food delivery service allows me to plan my meals. Since they come pre-packaged, I'm basically paying someone to prep healthy meals for me. The only things I really clean up are utensils. I DoorDash literally everything else, unless they're very specific and expensive purchases. If I need something basic like home supplies, cleaning sprays, detergents, toilet paper, etc., I order them on DoorDash 30 minutes before I get home from work. It saves me making a stop and allows me to beeline my way home. The most important part is that it stops me from buying random knickknacks. If I feel like splurging on some not-so-healthy food, I'll order something on DoorDash and spend that 30 to 45 minutes waiting to do chores like cleaning and organizing my home. I have no problem trading my money for more time, Milo. Story 40. I've always purchased expensive, well-made beach chairs. Current is the Tommy Bahama with the cooler pouch and backstrap. $95 each. Worth every penny. Note: the TBs sold at Costco are a 42-packer made with cheap plastic versus steel and wood. The cheapies break in a few uses or one plop down. Story 41. My lizard. He just makes me happy. Much happier than the money I spent on him would I just saved it. When I see the gears slowly turning in his tiny little brain until he eventually recognizes bug directly in front of him, it's worth every cent. Story 42. Expensive overseas travel. Provided that you are not working 3 jobs just to survive, you have not truly traveled unless you have visited another continent. If I died in Europe, I would die happy. Story 43. Weed. Supplies to grow weed. I'm in at Ames 1 Kauai, but my first grow paid for itself. Plus, there's no way I can use all of it myself, so I get to give a lot of it away and make some friends happy. I have a neighbor that uses it for pain, and I happily fork it over when I have extra. Story 44. My family thinks it's a waste of money when I throw birthday parties for my dog, Echo, or when I throw Echo-themed parties. Next month, I'm throwing an Echo-themed grad potluck. I graduated from university recently and decided to make it Echo-themed. I do Echo trivia during the parties, and people love it. It makes me happy, makes my dog happy, and brings joy into other people's lives. Story 45. Paying people to clean the house and iron our clothes. Yes, it costs me money every month, but my God, the time I save not having to clean my place or iron my clothes and the relaxed feeling I get from it, priceless. On a more frivolous note, my bonsai growing set. It was about $40 for the seeds and accessories, but I'm invested in growing those little plants, even though it will be years before I even get a decent tree out of it. Story 46. A heated blanket sounds like something your grandma would get excited about, but I swear it changed my entire winter vibe. Could I survive without it? Yes, sure. But do I want to? Absolutely not. It's like being hugged by a warm cloud. I plug that thing in, burrito myself up in instant coziness. It feels like a little luxury that makes cold nights kind of amazing. Even if it was a tiny splurge, I regret nothing. Story 47. YouTube Premium. Yeah, shitty company, bad reputation, all that I know. But being able to fall asleep to super niche video essays and documentaries at night without being blasted by annoying ass ads is really nice. Listening to video essays and stuff while at work is amazing. And it's nice being able to play music videos nonstop on it during house parties. Especially later as people start getting tired and are done with beer pong and dare Jenga and just want to wind down and chit chat. Story 48. Bath bomb addiction. The ones I buy are not cheap, and they just end up down the drain without changing your life that much. But I'm a nice person, and life can just be brutal sometimes, so I don't effing uncare. For the 10 minutes I get to myself in a nice bath, worth it. And we are all worth it. Story 49. Lego. The guy who invented the idea is a true genius. I used to have a box of random bricks when I was little, and my big brother used to build me amazing things, just with his imagination and no instructions. Now it's a bit more boring because you could only build what's on the label, but still the amount of detail and the little Easter eggs and references they put in always blows my mind. Story 50. I decided to boost my motivation, finishing my bachelor by telling myself I'd buy a VR headset and start gaming after my bachelor. This was a great motivator. I finished my bachelor, bought the headset all excited. VR is not for me. Kind of lame in comparison playing a simple strategic 2D game. But the money was worth the motivation. Story 51. I can't bring myself to purchase Alfredo sauce in a jar. Working in restaurants, I know how easy it is to make good Alfredo from scratch, so I insist on buying the pecorino and Parmigiano. I go an extra step with chicken broth made from my Costco rotisserie bones too, and everyone loves it. Story 52. My dad once chided my little brother, 30, for the 2,000 collection of Warhammer figurines he has beautifully hand-painted. This hobby has led to his closest friendships. My dad asked why he hasn't monetized his skills, though my bro makes twice as much as me, despite being much younger. You monetize that broken fishing boat in the backyard? I asked my dad. He had to agree. Story 53. Barnes & Noble book purchases. Yes, I know it's expensive, but it's the only chain bookstore remaining in my area, and nothing beats the anticipation of going to a bookstore and perusing the shelves. Story 54. Pickup and delivery laundry service. I live in an apartment in a very old building that doesn't have laundry in the building, so I had to go to a laundromat a couple of blocks away. Several years ago, I had surgery that had me in a cast, then a boot on crutches, then in PT for a few months after, so going up and down stairs and walking 2 blocks with a laundry bag was just not going to happen, so I started doing laundry service. Once I got back on my feet, I was like, man, listen, I am advanced in my career, I make a good salary, I can spend $150 a month on never having to schlep laundry again. Worth every penny. Story 55. Beach house vacations. I don't want to be on the 8th floor of a beach condo or in a house that's 2 blocks off the beach with a golf cart. I want my back door to look out over the beach. I don't want to share my space with a few hundred other folks that are renting chaise lounges. Story 56. I have a $1,000 coffee machine. It is my favorite consumer purchase ever. Besides all the fancy coffee drinks I can make, I have it dialed in to make a perfect cup of coffee. Nice thick crema on every cup. I have yet been to a coffee shop, outside of Italy, that makes a better coffee than I make at home. All of this at the push of a button. It tastes like coffee instead of black water filtered through beans. Story 57. This was when I was younger. Between the ages of 16 and 20, I spent thousands of dollars on Hearthstone, the card game. I still play it today. 10 years after I started, I just don't buy anything anymore. Story 58. Had a 32 TV in my bedroom, but wanted something larger. Instead of another TV, I purchased an Orson Pro projector for just over $200. Now I can watch ADHD for less price than a cheap, on-sale 43 TV. Story 59. When I used to travel a lot for work, I would prepay for fuel. Sometimes friends or partners would come with me and give me grief about prepaying for fuel when I rented a car. Totally worth it in my mind in business trips, and sometimes on personal trips if I'm worried time will be short getting back to the airport. Oil changes, cleaning services, pool service, yard work, totally worth it to have my weekends and evenings free. Story 60. Bluetooth shower speaker. Sure, I could just use my phone's speaker. Sure, I don't need to listen to music when I shower. Sure, 30 could be spent on much more important things. I still stand by it, and when this one dies, I'll buy another. Story 61. Mine is paying for a personal trainer. I know the average Redditor will just tell me to find a YouTube workout plan and stick with it, but my personal trainer is worth it. I gained 1.5 lbs muscle in less than a month by having bi-weekly sessions. He knows my goals, what I'm capable of, and exactly how far to push me. Story 62. I have an Uller, which is a bed cooler thing that goes between the sheet and the mattress. This is my second one because I ran my first one into the ground. I will buy another when this one craps out and on till I die, or they go out of business, whichever is sooner. Story 63. I bought a pair of boots that looked really nice but were very painful to wear. When I wore them for the first time, my feet hurt a lot. I only used them once because they are not comfortable at all. Even though they are not practical, I still keep them because they look good in pictures. Story 64. Diced onions or peeled garlic. I know what it costs. Idgaff, it has made my cooking infinitely more enjoyable. The only exception is if I'm doing a pressure cooker dish, and then my ugly peeled cleaved onions and garlic go in and no one cares. Story 65. Pretty much every record I buy or upgrade. I know it's on streaming, I know I have it on CD already, but you have to find what you enjoy and embrace it. They aren't cheap in Australia, but I work hard, earn all right, so fuck it. Story 66. High-quality musical instruments. No regrets whatsoever, and they only appreciate. The value of making me want to practice more is even more valuable. You can't buy being good at music, and there's no such thing as gifted prodigy. It takes time, dedication, and good shit. That is all. Put your kids in band. You can play music forever and make a bit of money at it as an amateur. Can't say that for football. Story 67. Back in the day when I wore short pants, I scrimped and saved for a really decent 55 LWY recurve hunting bow. My mother absolutely lost the plot when she found out how much it cost. She really lost her shit over it. 50 years later, that recurve hunting bow is still going strong. Recently took it on a deer hunt. The original cost, an $82. Story 68. I don't consider it a waste of money, but a new glass top stove. I had a stove that had the coils and it was from IDK, the 80s or something, and it worked, but it was so hard to keep clean. Plus, I hated the feeling and noise of the pan scraping on it as I sat them down, moved them, or lifted them up. I started to love to cook again, and on that same note, a new pot and pan set. I'd been using stuff from the 80s and 90s that was literally falling apart and finally got tired of screwing on handles and scraping off food from the bottoms, so I dropped $150 on a new pot and pan set that's non-stick and matches the kitchen aesthetic. Best purchases? Story 69. YouTube Premium and Twitch Turbo. My wife and I watch a ton of YouTube across multiple devices, and I'll never go back. I also have Twitch open a lot in the background during work or when I'm gaming. Everyone is so adamant about ad blockers, but I got so fed up with them breaking all the time. Every single time Premium is brought up, everyone is screaming about, yeah, just use the previous version, Firefox, download this nightly build ad block off GitHub, and get Pi-hole set up. That's all you need. Worth every penny. Story 70. Lottery tickets. Yes, Reddit, I know. However, a 5 ticket every few weeks keeps me from going to the casino and blowing a few $100 a few times a year. Only been to the casino 2 or 3 times in about 10 years. Story 71. We were nearing the end of our Japan trip and me and my fiance bought way too much stuff, so we had to buy a new carry-on suitcase. We found several stores selling suitcases for around 10, but stumbled upon a bright yellow Pikachu-themed suitcase for 80. Honestly, the quality wasn't any better than the cheap ones, but we thought it looked super cool and cute, so we got that instead. It makes me happy every time we use it and look at it. Well worth it for us. Story 72. Statue of David light switch cover. It's silly, costs more than the plain white ones, but it makes me smirk every time I see it. Grocery delivery. Every time I go to the grocery store, I forget something I need. Buy something I don't need or get royally pissed off by something or someone while shopping. It's worth it to not deal with that stress and use the time saved for something productive. Story 73. A chord harmonica. I'm a pro musician. In 2013 to 2015 or so, I went through a Brian Jones phase where I wanted to introduce uncommon instruments to everything. Worth noting, a lot of songs on the radio at the time had an instrumental hook played by an uncommon instrument, like an accordion or whatever. It was a trend for a minute. They're huge and impractical, and really don't have a ton of functional use in modern music. The sound is something that makes more sense in traditional East European music, or the strange, later Warsaw Pact music that mixed traditional sounds with synths and guitars. It actually sounds a lot like an accordion, or the little one, a concertina, I think is what they're called. More than likely, it will end up on display in a curio cabinet. Once I get a curio cabinet. Story 74. I pay a company to cut my lawn and do the trimming. I live alone, and they can get it done in under 15 minutes. Where it's an hour and a half for me to do it myself. And I don't have the expense of buying a ride-on and maintaining it, aren't fixing it. Story 75. Our kitchen table. It was $1,400 20 years ago. We were new, dirt-broke homeowners. A solid wood harvest table set was my dream. We'd been using a patio table and chairs for the 6 months we'd lived in the house already. We could have spent $500 on a standard set instead. 20 years later, it's marked up and beat to hell, but it's still solid. Every mark on it has a story. I love it, and I'll have it until I die. Story 76. When my wife and I were first married, we didn't have a lot of money. I had a little extra from a freelance job and bought some outdoor speakers. I think I paid $35 or $40. My wife declared them a waste of money, but it was my money, so she really couldn't say too much. Hooked them up outside and enjoyed listening to them for 30 years. They still sounded great when I replaced them with some Bose speakers a few years ago. Story 77. Flying on non-budget airlines. Just let me be comfortable without any headaches, please. For reference, I don't live in the U.S., and regular flights here come from top airlines like Japan Airlines, All Nippon Airlines, Korean Air, Singapore Airlines, Etihad, Qatar, and others. Story 78. My husband disagrees, but grocery delivery, it works for many reasons in my house. 1. I don't get distracted buying things we don't need or have to drag kids to the store too. If my husband complains about it, he will go do the shopping for me. Either way, I win. Story 79. An expensive couch, IDGF. It's one of the best things my husband and I have ever purchased. People definitely judge the price tag. Fits our needs better than any other couch we have ever had. And it's fully washable, fully modular, easy to replace parts instead of getting an entire new couch. Story 84 Tungsten Cube. Sure, it costs 2 paychecks, but having something the size of a 1-liter bottle that weighs as much as a 5-gallon bucket of water is just too cool. Plus, if I put it on a shelf with my rock tumbler, it stops it from shaking. Story 81 Chafing Dishes. They come out only for Thanksgiving. One year we were trying to figure out whom to invite of our ever-expanding family and just went, let's invite everyone. And now I'll basically have a catering company that only services me for one event. I host upwards of 50 now. 50. Story 82. All the random wooden toys I buy for my rabbit. They need mental stimulation, and it helps with my depression to see him playing with toys. Technically, he needs these, but there are definitely people who would say it's a waste of money. Story 83. Food grocery delivery through apps like DoorDash. Sure, it's expensive, but each time I do it, it saves me an hour or two of time. If you could pay to have an extra hour or two each day, it'd probably cost a lot more than a delivery fee. Story 84. Mickey Mouse canisters. There was no point. Empt Kitchen, us not Disney, nor Mickey Mouse. I like Disney, but I am not usually a fanatic. I didn't care. I needed canisters, and the whimsy makes me smile. I still smile every time I look at them in the kitchen. I would buy them all over again. Story 85. I purchased some high-quality tiny hands. I keep them in my backpack and use them to make my friends at work laugh. My wife called me when Kay bought them and said, was spending $20 for tiny rubber hands really the wisest thing to do? I told her that was a decision I was standing by. She got slightly upset, but it was worth it. I sing and clap with my tiny hands. Story 86. Pretty much anything that makes someone happy. I think Funko Pops are the dumbest thing for the price, but I had a friend that had a wall and was all happy about it. I thought it's stupid and wasteful. They're literally the same with minor changes. They were happy, so as much as I hate them, they're happy, but fuck those damn near identical slap a different haircut things. Story 87, extended warranties. Everything, and I mean everything, has engineered obsolescence built into it. Everything is disposable and built that way. We are supposed to be constant consumers of everything. Story 88, my Yeti cup. Yes, I'll be honest and say that I bought it because I thought it's cool, but I literally use it every day. The thing is, it now feels weird to drink pop out of a normal glass or even a paper cup from a fast food place. The ice melts too fast and waters down my drink. The drink gets warm, and I even think pop goes flat faster. But in my Yeti, it stays carbonated and cold. I even put a Slurpee in there once because I don't want it to melt. Not only did it not melt, it started to freeze together enough that I couldn't drink it. Story 89. I bought a pair of boots that looked really nice but were very painful to wear. When I wore them for the first time, my feet hurt a lot. I only used them once because they are not comfortable at all. Even though they are not practical, I still keep them because they look good in pictures. Story 90, my Shark Vacuum Chush Mop Combo Robot with a dock. There is something so wonderful about having clean floors. I swear my mental health is better when the floors are clean. Plus, cleaning the floors helps keep everything else cleaner. But I also have 3 cats, and 3 cats worth of fur, dander, and kitty litter. And I struggle with executive dysfunction. Now I just press a button on my phone and my floors are vacuumed and mopped every single day, or whenever I want. And all I have to do is occasionally service the dock and do a deeper clean to reach the spots that the robot can't. I named my robot Jeremy, and he is one of my favorite things. My partner says he's my 4th cat. Story 91. Any sort of toy collection, model kits, cars, action figures, etc. I personally collect Transformers, and I do it because it makes me happy and feel like a kid again. Just in general, collect what makes you happy. It's not a waste of money if it's worth it to you. Story 92. Takeout. Sometimes I'm in no mood to cook and will go to sleep rather than eat. Sometimes I'm craving a dish that requires a bunch of ingredients I don't usually cook with and couldn't use up before they spoil. Worth it. Story 93, a neck stock. It is like a laptop, but it is used for things that don't have a monitor or if the screen is too small to use. It has a built-in keyboard and mouse pad, HDMI slots, USB plugs, and it holds a charge forever. I hook up my Steam Deck to it to use it in PC mode. I use it for my Raspberry Pi. I hook my phone to it to make using some apps easy. Story 94. In an era of AirPods and Spotify, explaining why I spent more on my stereo equipment than my car will usually be met with a, huh? Or, Why? The occasional person who loves music and wants to check it out totally gets it within 30 seconds. Story 95. A robe coat hook shaped like Lord Vader's helmet. I embroidered towels to match it. It might be 37.97 overspent to others, but it matches my master bathroom perfectly. It inspires quotations from the entire series on weekends and finally instigated curiosity in my kids to watch the films, because I shed tears of joy when I opened the gift during my birthday party when I turned 42. 42! Story 96. The Buster Sword replica I got. Not only is it cool, it doubled as a makeshift table on Pathfinder nights with the homies in the living room back when we all lived in the same state and didn't have enough table space for everyone. The only regret I have is that I didn't get a higher quality one, but that can change eventually. Story 97. My Llamas with Hats t-shirt I only bought this year. I'd say waste of money cause Llamas with Hats is like 15 years old, so a lot of people don't get the reference. The t-shirt says, Carla, what did you do? On it, and it will never not be funny to me. Still to this day, if I meet anyone named Carl, I will immediately in my head do the voice. Just on the off chance people haven't seen it. Please note, not suitable for kids. Llamas with Hats Complete Series. Story 98, Label Maker. I could do this shit with a Sharpie, but I like everything being neat, tidy, matching, and easily readable. Also, my wife absolutely hates the labels, so it's been an absolute delight to leave labels on candles that say matches needed, or label our steak knives with stab him. Story 99. Literally everything from Instagram ads that wore me down. My TeePublic t-shirts? Hell yes. Fragrance house I've been eyeing. Discovery set? You better believe it. Portland leather bag? Actually, quite truly, a great quality product that was well worth the money. I'm this close to breaking down and trying MeUndies. Story 100 Saberforge had a Kickstarter quite a few years ago. They let you, in a simple CAD software, customize your lightsaber with CNC machine parts and hard plastic, like the ones they use in fighter jets so you could fight full contact. My roommate and I got them and had so much fun sparing. We used to do that with kendos when we were kids. I still love picking it up and swinging it around. It was around 300 plus tax and shipping, I believe. Story 101, I bought a ticket stub from the first baseball game I ever went to. I was able to determine what game it was by memory. It was a Tigers vs Mariners, a night game at Tiger Stadium in 1990, etc. Then found someone on eBay selling a bunch of Tigers tickets from that era. Best 10 I've ever spent. Story 102, I bought myself a random, slightly pricey birthday cake once, just because I wanted it. Usually avoid things like that, even on my birthday. But that day I saw it. I wanted it. I put it in my belly. That day always makes me smile because it occurred during a particularly challenging time in my life. Story 103, 20 years ago, I was an avid upland bird hunter and wanted a good bird dog. I had trained several dogs over the years, and they had all turned out to be good hunters and great family companions, but I wanted one that was professionally trained, so I convinced myself and my wife that it would be worth sending our newest pup to be trained. So I found a well-renowned trainer and drove the pup 1,600 miles to drop her off. The whole process took a little over a year, and I flew out to spend time with the pup several times. Long story short, she turned out to be an amazing bird dog and an even better family member. She lived to be 12, and I have so many incredible stories and memories. $6K seemed like an ass load of money at the time, but it was worth every nickel. Story 104. I bought a bike for $200 that looked rough. I cleaned it and then took it to the shop for a tune, and they told me it was probably worth like 2.5K. I've ridden over 3,000 kilometers on it now. Also, it wasn't stolen. I met the guy at his house, and he just bought himself and his wife brand new BMCs, and they were on trainers in the garage with a full setup. Story 105, my litter robot by Whisker. I never even think about my cat's litter. I don't smell it. I replace the collection bag about every week and a half, and I deep clean it every 3 months. I get reports every time she uses the bathroom, and it saves me so much litter. I purchased 80 pounds in December, and I've only gone through 1/16 of it. It's improved the air quality of my home, places her at less risk of a UTI, and has improved our collective mental health. Worth every penny. Story 106. I wouldn't consider any purchase I've made a waste of money, but there are many that others would, which I stand by. For example, spending over $400 on a bottle of champagne, or near $200 on a bottle of cognac. I've spent $1,000 on a pair of headphones, though. That's justified because I wanted top-of-the-line hi-fi headphones as an audiophile, and that's just how much they cost. Probably the most frivolous was going out to dinner by myself one night and spending $400 in an hour, $350 steak. Most would call that a waste of money purchase. I don't stand by everyone I've listed. Story 107, I have 2 extra large heating pads. One is 12 by 24, the other is 20 by 24. I already had a regular size heating pad. I am petite. I get annoyed by moving the regular one around to hit all the spots for my sciatica. The extra large size hits all the spots at once. It was not necessary, but damn it, I love it. Story 108, I was drunk and playing the TKO game from Jackbox with some friends. I got extra creative and threw in a drawing of a planet-sized god grabbing Earth aggressively. One of my friends had to add the tag for it to score points, and he wrote, "Excuse me, do you have a restroom I can use?" Bought that shirt real quick. You can opt to have the shirt printed and sent to you via mail. It still makes random people laugh when I wear it. Story 109, my kayak. I grew up on the Atlantic coast, now live by the Great Lakes. I wanted to take a kayaking trip a few years ago and decided somehow it would be less of a hassle to just buy a second-hand kayak rather than renting. Came across this gorgeous wooden sea kayak on Facebook Marketplace, and the guy had knocked it down to $200. For context, these hand-built wooden kayaks can go for far upwards of $1,000. It is so large. She's 17 feet long, and because it's wood, I can't just keep it outside all year. I've had it mounted diagonally on my living room ceiling for years now because it's the only place it fits. At best, I take it out a couple times a year. But I love it so much. She's gorgeous. Story 110. The little things I get my kids. My son has a pair of Crocs that has little green dino claws on it that the nails glow in the dark. He loves his monster shoes. His school left them outside after they had a water play day, and they shrunk due to the heat. I found someone selling them on Poshmark in the next size up that day and ordered them. He will be so stoked, and it was $20 with shipping. I've replaced toys that my kids love and lose or get destroyed without them knowing. My oldest lost this little white giraffe with rainbow polka dots when she was younger. Took it everywhere. She lost it somewhere, and before she really knew it was missing, I had another one ordered. It's never a waste to know they are happy whether they realize I did something for them or not. Story 111. This 1.50 resin buffalo wing keychain I bought off some sketchy-ass fake-looking website. This was well before the days of Temu and Shein, popularizing such poor planning, lol. When I was high off my tree, which I promptly forgot all about. Much to my surprise, it actually showed up several weeks later. It brings me joy every time I look at it. Story 112, Lego. Look, man, I get there are knockoff brands for cheap. I get it's a very expensive toy product, but it makes me happy and I feel a level of satisfaction when I build the sets I want that I don't really get any other way. I like fiddling with tiny assembly, I guess. Story 113. I am incredibly cheap when it comes to clothes and shoes and whatnot, but twice I have spent several $100s on jackets. I used one for over a decade, and the other I just got last year. First was an M65 field jacket. Second is an N3B parka. Story 114, a fountain pen. Even the cheaper ones aren't nearly as cheap as ballpoint pens or pencils, but they feel so much nicer to write with. With a fountain pen, I can also write for much longer than I can with a ballpoint or a pencil without my hand getting tired or crampy. That is mostly because with a fountain pen, you don't have to bear down at all. The weight of the pen is more than enough to get it to write. You do have to be a bit careful, though. The ink will happily bleed through common printer paper if you don't write quickly enough. Also needs to be refilled occasionally depending on how much you write, but the ink is relatively cheap. Story 115. All of these annoying bottles of powder, lotion, medicine, aromatherapy, miracle fix, body wash, eye lubricant, makeup, fungal rejuvenation lava, cat hair tonic, essence of baby elephant, spiritual relaxant, analytic traction juice, and unicorn fur regrowth tonic with elderberry pits for body and sheen. What the fuck is wrong with that woman I love? Takes 30 minutes to wipe down the bathroom due to moving shit around. Is she scared to use it all? Are they more valuable if you leave half of it in the bottle for eternity? With these mixed together to make a magic potion to kill Thanos? I don't know what's happening in there. Does the shampoo for dry hair make it so oily that the next day you have to use shampoo for oily hair? If you use dandruff shampoo today, does that require a reconstructing conditioner? Fucking TikTok and the idiots that listen to the bullshit on there. Madrawi. Damn it, story 116. Paying some professional services to build your PC. Just because building PC is easier and almost every single problem can be solved by watching YouTube or asking questions, doesn't mean you are forced to build the PC yourself. One problem that no one in this world can give you guarantee solutions is a RMA problem. When you build PC solo, you don't know from the get-go if the part's 100% working or not. Not even Linus Tech Tips can determine a fully working motherboard without opening the box in the first place. By paying professional services and Shop to Build plus order the parts, you can take it easy on this one. They will test the parts. If it's broken, they will find the solution. You will get a fully functioning PC in the end without a hassle. Story 117 car mods some may see as stupid. Making it look like a stock car, adding a comically large spoiler, or giving your Miata a face. It's a beneficial thing to do because the highways are boring with the same generic white contractor trucks and broken down Altimas. It's your personal thing. Make it a canvas. Story 118. When I was a little kid, maybe 8 to 9, I always dreamed of having my own dirt bike. I literally daydreamed about owning one. But because we were so poor, I believed I would never own one in my life. Fast forward 25 years later, and I still can't afford one LMAO. Story 119. My first milk cow. Bought her at an auction for $400 as an impulse. Early birthday present to myself when my husband was out of town, truck driver. We had just lost our first pregnancy, and I needed something to keep me busy and love on. She was an absolute doll and got us hooked on cows. So we got a few more, then bought a bigger farm, then got a few more. Now I farm full-time and make my living milking cows. For context, I already had a farm and horses, so was fully prepared to care for her properly. We had talked about getting cows. I just wasn't technically planning on buying one that day. Story 120. Useless stuff that makes your loved ones happy. My kids ask for useless stuff a lot, and often they get a no. However, every so often we will grant them their wish, despite it not being a special occasion. And the joy it brings to reward them randomly for no reason other than love is worth it every time. My daughter has more stuffed animals than you can shake a stick, but she loves them and asks to buy more every time we're out. She asks to go to the paper store all the time just to look around. And of course, she's eyeing the stuffed animals they have. Dozens of trips this year so far, and the 2 Jellycat stuffies she scored have been worth it for my wife and I. Story 121. For me, it's a motorcycle. The first one I bought as a young lad was because I couldn't afford a car. They've gotten a lot more expensive since then, but I will sacrifice a lot of expense in other areas to keep it now. Story 122. My giant yard turned into a garden. No, I'll never get my money back selling my home. No one will appreciate what I've built. My house has more than doubled in price, but the trees and garden exceed that. I don't care. I've an oasis that I love. In my city, someone will scrape and build 3 shitty slot homes someday. Hate that, but for now there is peace and beauty where I live. Story 123 years ago. Flat broke. My wife-to-be bought me a cheap Casio watch. Casio long gone now, and with a drawer full of G-Shocks and Omegas, etc., mortgage and cars paid off, I sourced an Enos of that very Casio just for it to sit in the watch drawer and remind me of the miles traveled since then. Good times. Story 124. Original Nespresso espresso coffee pods. They are aluminum and I do recycle them, but I am sure it is still more wasteful and expensive than other coffee methods. But they taste so good, and I'm sure an hour with $1,000 machine will make me an even better cup. But I don't have an hour or $1,000 machine. I have a 99 machine that is over 10 years old and still working fine. Had a Keurig, hated it and all the coffee it made. Also had the new Nespresso that makes full cups of coffee. The espresso from it was not nearly as good, so I gave it to my son for regular coffee. OG Nespresso is the way. Story 125. Paper plates and disposable silverware. We'll probably get lambasted for this, but I loathe doing dishes. I also have celiacs, which means I have to be extremely careful about cross-contamination. Using disposable items helps protect me from a month-long of horrid symptoms. Story 126. I spent $78 on a Milwaukee flashlight that I will most likely lose in someone's attic at some point. I have cheaper flashlights that I keep as backups, but the expensive one is my favorite, and I'll buy another one the day I lose this one. This is the second one. I've spent close to $300 altogether just in flashlights. Story 127. In 1972, I saved all my money to buy an electric piano, Wurlitzer 140B. My parents were apoplectic, scolding me that it was a stupid waste of $125. My father swore it would be gathering dust in the attic. A year later, he was begging me to put it in the attic. In the decades since, I've played it a lot, on stage, in recording studios, and just noodling. In pristine shape, I've seen them go for upwards of 10-0. Story 128. People look funny when I say I still collect Blu-rays, games, and music on disc, especially if it has a nice steelbook. Every time I walk through the door of my gaming room and look at my wall of steelbooks, I get a smile on my face. Expansive maybe, but still worth every euro spent on them. Stry 129. This thread is 10 hours old, has 4K upvotes, 9K comments, and not one mention of the Festool brand of woodworking equipment. On ER Woodworking and similar, it seems like one from or two call Festool a waste of money, but still bought one. They must be in the shop already this morning. Story 130 plants. I live in a rental with a pretty incredible jungle-like yard, full of tropicals which propagate easily from cuttings. Our landlord lets us go wild since it's free maintenance for him. Decided a while ago that buying rare, more expensive stuff was a waste since we could just multiply what we had. But 2 years later, those same plants get a little boring and we are running out of space for cuttings. So I started a Hoya collection and it brings me great joy. Nothing outrageously expensive, but a couple of rare ones that are difficult to find. I'm up to 12 now. Every day I get home from work, I'm in the backyard looking over the day's new growth. Usually before I've even gone inside to set my stuff down. My non-gardener friends think I'm a little loony, but they never seem to mind learning from me why their plants at home aren't prospering. Story 131. A designer laptop bag for work. I can carry everything I need in it and don't have to carry a separate purse. It also gives me a more professional, put-together look, even if I just wear jeans and a sweater to the office. Story 132. Honestly, a Switch 2. I am buying one later today after saving my original Handbox launch Switch to the Nintendo cloud. Why do I stand by it at its $500 Story 540 with tax in my area? Price. I love video games. Video games help my mental health from crumbling. I started a new job. I love the job and could use a paycheck on it as a treat to myself. I stand by the purchase. But the price is higher than I wanted. I stand by the purchase, not quite the price. Story 133, another Land Rover. So I still have a Land Rover to drive when the other one breaks. Trouble is the first one hasn't broken yet, but the second, newer and substantially more expensive one is having a strop. This is now an additional expense I wouldn't have had to deal with if I hadn't bought it, as the first one has been suspiciously reliable. But I love them both, so it's worth it. I also love the additional third Land Rover I didn't mention, and the fourth part's Land Rover for having an abundance of spares to hand when I need them. Story 134. Buying anything from a salesperson that gets a commission and you can go directly to the source. I have people coming to my door offering everything from solar to pest control. Why would I pay your commission when I don't need to? Plus, the shady tactics many salespeople use to close a sale. No thanks. Story 135. Multiple streaming services at once. I see so many people complaining about having to 50 push for all the streaming services, but why do you need them all at once? I just rotate them out depending on what I want to watch. Or maybe I can do this because I tend to watch 1 or 2 episodes a day and not binge a series within a week. And I don't have a habit of just browsing when I'm bored to find stuff to watch. When I feel like watching something, I already know exactly what I'm going to turn on. Story 136. Products from Gucci and alike brands when it comes to pricing. Why do you want to buy overly priced stuffs when at one point you got to throw it off due to wear and tear of it? Why waste half of her earnings on their shit? I don't understand people obsessing on those Yeezys, if I spelled correctly, shoes. Do you even know the point of wearing shoes? Also posters of celebrities. I sometimes find it creepy when people have their posters, aka faces, all over their room's walls. Also buying merches of celebrities. Absolute waste of money. Story 137. Interior decorators. Seems like a dope job, but also a pretty useless job. It baffles me that people will pay so much money for someone to decorate their house. Eat it. I originally said interior designers, but I confused them with interior decorators. Interior designers seem vastly more useful than interior decorators. Story 138. Maybe I'm just a Scrooge, but I've never understood people who will pay through the nose to buy the most expensive baby items for their newborns. My sister, for example, I agreed as a gift to buy her a new pram for my nibbling. I'm thinking, okay, it'll be something like 60, maybe 100 for a really good one. Nope, she picks out this designer pram worth 700. I about had a heart attack. Fortunately, she only wanted a little bit towards the cost, no more than I was willing to pay myself. But Jesus, I almost shit myself when I heard that. Then I saw the prices of all the other new stuff she was buying, and all the people around me acting as if it was perfectly normal. As far as my childless self was aware, baby stuff is supposed to be short-term unless you wanted to hand them down to future kids. I thought you'd start off buying cheap, then gradually get to the more expensive stuff as the growth spurts slow down. My suggestion that they buy cheap or even secondhand was not well received. I probably come across as a penny pincher, but I honestly don't see the appeal of spending so much money on things the baby will grow out of 5 minutes after you buy it. Story 138. Restaurant dining. I'm just not all that interested in food beyond nutrition and how it's going to make me feel. I don't value going out to eat unless it's a means to socialize or to stay out longer without going home. It's really not even my preferred way to socialize, honestly. It feels like a waste of money. Story 139. Those 3,000 Pluxed watches used to make a statement. I can certainly appreciate the craftsmanship of a well-made watch or sculpture, what have you. But to me, something like this is not really a good investment. I got into it with some coworkers because I told them all of this was in my eyes much too excessive, and they got defensive when I mentioned that it feels like the brand industry takes us for chumps. I don't know. Maybe this is just me. Story 140. Those 3,000 plus watches used to make a statement. I can certainly appreciate the craftsmanship of a well-made watch or sculpture, what have you. But to me, something like this is not really a good investment. I got into it with some coworkers because I told them all of this was in my eyes much too excessive, and they got defensive when I mentioned that it feels like the brand industry takes us for chumps. I don't know, maybe this is just me. Story 141. I know it would sound weird, but paintings, they're just for decoration, man. Honestly, I know houses without paintings look ugly and too simple, but some of them are just overpriced. Some people have lots of talent and charge fair prices. Some have a high ego and a charge way more than it's worth. Honestly, I would probably just buy some fake pot real plants to lay around making the house look more natural and not expensive at once. Story 142. While these may not be purchases, here are 2 things that conventional wisdom say are smart that I don't necessarily abide by. Life insurance, either term or whole. I don't have defendants even though I'm at the age where I can kick it and die. MISO makes a good living as well, so I don't see the need for life insurance. Yet, 401k retirement savings. The premise of retirement programs is to save for a future date, but with the implication that your money's essentially locked up for years on end. But when you win the lottery, the advice is to always take the lump sum amount over the annuity. Why? Because $1 in hand now is what you can spend now. Assuming you're good with money, why not spend the money you'd be putting into a 401k IRA instead in starting a business or buying real estate? Yeah, maybe you can contribute enough to get a company match, but the rest of it could be better invested instead of locking it away for decades, all the while you're susceptible to the government, just changing the rules on how you can or cannot access the money in the future.